Chapter 2. Michael scribbled in his notebook, frantically trying to make sense of Miss Martha's words. Martha pressed a button on the projector, and the on-screen image switched from a geometric diagram to a close-up photograph of someone's eye. Her rapid words took a moment to sink into Michael's sluggish mind. Scientists still do not know how the eyes work. Some believe we never will. She pressed the button again, and with a click, the image changed to another diagram, depicting an eye and labeling parts that Michael was unfamiliar with. Your first assignment will focus on how the eye receives information and sends it to your brain. Michael glanced over his shoulder at Jenna, who was scribbling in her notebook so fast that Michael imagined it catching on fire. Jenna looked up, smiled, then continued writing. Michael turned back to his notebook, struggling to keep up. The cafeteria was massive. Michael had never seen it more than half full, even during events. The walls were swirling with multicolored depictions of the sports mascots, and were lined with tables that were cluttered with pictures of sports teams. Michael and Jenna sat next to each other at one of the many, shiny metallic tables. Michael placed his notebook on the table and opened it to the segment he was using for biology class. Then he turned to Jenna. How much of that did you catch? Jenna shrugged. Most of it. Could you help me? Jenna giggled. Yeah, what do you need help with? Michael shrugged. Everything? They both laughed. Jenna spoke. Alright, I guess we'll start at the beginning. Michael asked, You really like this stuff? Jenna nodded. Yeah, especially eyes. They're amazing. You know what I find weird? What's that? How clearly can you see in the corner of your eye? Michael thought for a moment. Not very well. Jenna nodded. Exactly. I mean, you can still see movement and stuff, so you can kinda detect changes, but your eye's primary focus is... She shrugged. Well, whatever you're focusing on. If you see a tree in the corner of your eye, you kinda see the branches and the movement, but mostly you just see a tree, right? You just get the idea. It's not until you really focus on it, until you can reliably make out specifics. Michael felt confused. You can make out changes. Jenna nodded slowly. You can see there is a change, but not really put your finger on it until you focus on it. Michael pondered for a moment. I mean, I guess that's true. Jenna smiled wide. Take it from the biologist. It's true. Your mind plays tricks on you, in everything, including your eyesight. Michael teased. You're not a biologist yet. Jenna placed her hands on her hips, speaking playfully. I will be someday. She stabbed a finger at Michael, her bright smile turning wicked. And which one of us came to the other asking for help? Michael held up his hands. Fair point. They both laughed. Jenna unzipped her red backpack that was sitting next to her on the bench and pulled out a pencil. Well, if you really need help with everything, she shrugged as she chuckled, then, again, I guess let's just start from the beginning. The red brick edifice of Hurricane Middle School towered over all the surrounding buildings. As the other students strolled toward the parking lot, Michael and Jenna walked side by side toward the bike racks, their feet crunching in the waving grass. Michael asked, You want to come over tomorrow? Jenna adjusted her backpack's position, smiling. I'd love to, but my family and I are gonna go camping by the river. Just for one night, though. Not really sure what our plans are after that. As they approached the bike racks, Michael said, Oh, cool. I hope you guys have fun. Jenna pulled her glittery bike from the rack. Thanks. What are you gonna do tomorrow? Michael shrugged as he pulled his bike from the rack. I don't really have any plans yet. Probably just gonna play games. Jenna nodded. Sounds fun? Michael sat on his black bike. You have fun with Fritz. Jenna grabbed her handlebars and positioned her feet on the pedals. Thanks. What are you gonna do when you get home? Michael shrugged again. Probably just watch a show with my brother, I guess. As Jenna slowly began pedaling, Michael matched her speed. He's gonna go to college soon, you know? Pretty soon I'm not gonna have as much time with him. As they both clung to the far right of the sidewalk, making their way around the parking lot, Jenna replied, Yeah, I hope it goes well for him. As they turned right, pedaling alongside the main road, Michael stood up off his seat in an attempt to gain speed. Yeah, me too. As they came to the first intersection, they waved to each other as they parted ways, Michael going left and Jenna turning right. The tires of Michael's bike ground against the dirt path as he pulled up to the driveway of his house. With a high-pitched shriek of metal on metal, he slid open the garage door and walked his bike inside. The garage was littered with boxes, overflowing with gears, wires, plastic eyes, multicolored fur-like fabric, metal frames, and power tools. Near the door that led inside was a tall metallic shelf with animatronic heads stacked atop it. Some of the heads were the dull shade of unpainted metal and plastic, staring ahead lifelessly with hollow eye sockets. But others were complete with eyes and fur. Michael recognized most of them, but there was one in the shape of a wolf that he wondered what Dad was going to do with. Despite his curiosity, he had never bothered to ask Dad anything about them. To Michael, they weren't animatronics. They were vicious creatures with blood dripping from their fangs, waiting to spring at anyone who turned their back to them. After leaning his bike against the wall, Michael closed the garage door. Then, he walked to the other side of the room and through the door that took him into a hallway. To his right was the front door and 4 pictures. Each picture was a close-up of the animatronics at Freddy's. The bear, the rabbit, the chicken, and the fox. When Jenna had first visited Michael's house, when they were 8, she rambled on about how cheerful the animatronics looked in the pictures. Michael only ever saw coal-black eyes staring back at him, the creatures snarling to reveal their serrated teeth. Michael knew they were just photographs, but his childhood horror had scraped across his fragile soul, the memories tainting his senses. Until he was 8, he had brutally vivid night terrors. Until he was 9, his hair stood on end with every mechanical snap, click, and whir. Then he had mostly gotten over it. But he could never forget the blood-curdling vision of the monstrous creatures ripping him from his bed and swallowing him whole. The terror of death writhing down his crumpled body, ensnared and rotting in the wriggling black guts of the nightmarish animal. Hey. Michael startled as his mind snapped back to the present. Thomas, who was wearing black jeans and a striped t-shirt, was standing in the hallway. He held up his hands. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Michael smiled. It's okay. Thomas leaned against the blue wall. How was your day? Michael shrugged. It was good, considering it was mostly school. How was yours? Thomas chuckled. My day's been good. I didn't really have anything to do, so I just went and bought a new video game. Which one? Thomas straightened and waved his hand for Michael to follow. It's really fun. I'll show you. Behind Jenna, her father pulled the blindfolds off of Fritz's face. Fritz immediately jumped up and down incessantly like a spring, shouting, Freddy's! Jenna's father put a hand on Fritz's shoulder. Happy birthday. Fritz bounced on the balls of his feet. Thank you, 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 thank you. He took off, running toward the entrance. Alice called, Wait for us! Jenna jogged toward Fritz. I got him. After getting their hands stamped, Jenna and her family walked into the main dining area. The tiled floor, the purple tablecloths and party hats were all smothered in glitter. To the right were the restrooms and a short hallway leading to the arcade. To the left was another short hallway that led to the private party room labeled Pirate's Cove. Jenna stared straight ahead at the main stage, where the 3 animatronics loomed over the crowd of energetic children. On the right was Chica, the yellow chicken waving maracas. On the left was Bonnie, the purple bunny who rhythmically stomped his foot and strummed his red guitar. In the center was the star of the restaurant, the brown bear named Freddy Fazbear, who systematically tipped his black top hat as he sang into his microphone. Their movements were slow and repetitive, their lips not synced to the song lyrics. To Jenna, they looked like they were drunk. Jenna took Fritz's hand, guiding him to Pirate's Cove. Come on, this way. When Fritz opened the door to Pirate's Cove, he beamed at the sight of his friends shouting, Surprise! Fritz ran to them and they gathered in a circle, drawn into a loud, enthusiastic conversation. Jenna turned her attention to the right of the private party room. Then her heart sank. Atop the small circular stage, and almost concealed by the purple, star-covered curtain, was a sign that read, Out of Order. Jenna thought, That's Fritz's favorite. She was surprised to find Fritz suddenly yanking her hand. Come on, Jenna, let's go play. Jenna laughed as she let herself be dragged along by Fritz. Jack stood at the entrance to the main office, his hand on the silver doorknob. He startled as something slammed into his waist, and he whirled to see a little girl teetering backward as she tried to regain her balance. She spoke, Sorry. Jack replied, It's alright. Are you okay? The girl looked up at Jack. Yeah. She added, What's your name? Jack gave a warm smile. Jack, what's your name? The girl twirled her brown hair around her finger. Charlie. A boy, around the same age, scampered beside Charlie. Hey, Charlotte! Charlie glared at him, speaking irritably. Don't call me that! The boy's smile widened as he playfully nudged Charlie's shoulder with his elbow. Hey, Charlie! Wanna go play tag with Carlton? As if she were never annoyed, Charlie smiled. Yeah! She turned back to Jack and waved. Bye! Jack waved back. Bye. Charlie and the boy took each other's hands, then ran off with the excessive energy of 10-year-olds. After a moment, Jack turned back to the door. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and went inside. The man, wearing a formal business suit with a gray tie, was filling out some sort of form when he looked up from his desk. Jack tried to act the least awkward he could. Hi, is this the manager's office? The man grinned. Yes, are you Jackson Calvin? Jack nodded. Yeah? The man waved his hands. Please, come in. Jack walked inside and closed the door behind him. The man slid the form aside, and it disappeared into a clutter of paperwork. Take a seat. Jack pulled the chair out from the desk and sat down, as the man held out his hand. My name is Henry Emily. Please call me Henry. Jack shook his hand. Nice to meet you, Henry. Henry set his hands on the table. I hear you wanted to sign up for the night guard position? Jack nodded. Yes, it's my first security-related job, so I don't really have any experience, but I have muscle. Henry chuckled. Well, you certainly need that. Jack turned around in his seat as he heard a knock on the metal door. Henry leaned to see around Jack as he spoke. Come in. The door swung open, and a tall, slim man, wearing a suit even more formal than Henry's, stepped inside. He glanced at Jack, then at Henry. Sorry, am I interrupting something? Henry shook his head. It's fine. I would have to introduce you anyway. He gestured to the man. Jack. He briefly glanced at Jack. Can I call you that? Jack turned to Henry with a nod. Yes, please. Henry turned his gaze back to the man. Jack, this is my business partner, William Afton. Jack turned to William, holding out his hand. Nice to meet you, sir. William smiled and shook Jack's hand. Likewise. Please, call me William. Henry gestured to Jack. William, this is Jack. He wants to be our new night guard. William smiled. Yes, we are very much in need of a night guard. Do you have what it takes? Jack shrugged. I know how to use a flashlight, and I have good vision in the dark, and I played football all throughout high school and college. Trust me, I can run fast and tackle somebody. Is there anything else I need? William chuckled. Well, it's a start. He turned his glance to Henry, holding up a piece of paper. Henry, I just came in to give you my report. Henry nodded to William. Oh, thank you. He gestured to the desk. Just set it here. I'll take a look later. William set the paper on the desk. See you later, Henry. He turned to Jack. Nice meeting you, Jack. Jack nodded. You too, sir. Henry spoke. Take care, William. William turned and exited the room, closing the door behind him. Henry turned his attention back to Jack. So, tell me about the other jobs you've had, Jack. Anthony hefted the heavy box under the bed of his truck. I hope you guys have fun. Alice, who was standing a few feet away and carrying a box of sleeping bags, froze. Aren't you coming? Anthony leaned against the back of the red truck. I wish I could, but I gotta go to work tomorrow. I thought they said you had a couple days left. Anthony shrugged. Yeah, apparently they changed their minds about that. Austin's complaining about his windows again, except when they watched the camera footage. It wasn't those same kids who broke them, it was 3 adults. They want me to help look into it. Alice walked up to Anthony. Aren't there other officers? Anthony shrugged again. Yes, but long story short, Chief thinks I'm the best pick for this one. Alice sighed as she set the box in the truck bed. Well, I guess he'll just have to come with us next time. Anthony straightened. I was actually thinking about quitting. Alice turned to Anthony and stared in shock. What? I want a job that lets me spend more time with you, and with Jenna and Fritz. Alice shook her head. But you love being on the force. Don't just throw that away. Anthony smiled as he took Alice's hands. Well, I'm only thinking about it. He kissed Alice, who hugged tightly and kissed back. Michael laid in bed, staring up at the whirling ceiling fan. He felt like there was something he should be doing, but didn't know what it would be. He turned onto his side to look at the clock, and saw it was almost midnight. Maybe what I should be doing is falling asleep. The problem was that he didn't feel tired. He tried hard to think about something boring, of what he had learned at school. Then, in the corner of his eye, he saw a yellow light. Michael rolled onto his back to see a firefly buzzing around the ceiling fan. He held out his hand, and the firefly landed in his palm, its light slowly fading in and out. Suddenly, out of thin air, a metallic claw appeared. It was wide with long, sharp teeth, like a twisted version of a backhoe. The firefly jumped from Michael's hand, and the claw snapped shut on it. Blood seeped from the crevices of the closed claw, and Michael heard himself scream. Michael gasped, jumping awake, the sound of the snapping claw echoing in his mind like a phantom. He glanced around his dark room, finding nothing out of the ordinary. He glimpsed at the clock again to see that it was nearly 3 a.m. He blinked and shook his head emphatically, as if it could knock the image out of his mind. What kind of dream was that? But it couldn't have been a dream. It was too vivid, too real. Then, anxiety clasped him in its fangs as an icy chill ran down his spine. Are my nightmares gonna come back? But why now? Why at all? He gulped, sinking further into his blanket, even though he knew he wasn't shivering because he was cold. Maybe they won't. Maybe it was just a random, vivid dream. For the first time in years, he jumped out of bed and yanked open the drawer to his nightstand. He pulled out the yellow stuffed teddy bear, whose eyes were always fixated on his. When Michael's night terrors started, Dad had told him that he was his protector, his guardian, that he would keep him safe. Michael had taken the bear everywhere he went. He even hid him in his backpack when he went to school. Michael pressed the bear to his chest in a tight hug, stroking the soft fur. I missed you, Teddy. Michael laid back in bed and placed Teddy beside him. After making sure Teddy's eyes were focused on him, Michael pulled the blue sheets almost up to his eyes, then frantically darted his eyes around the room, his imagination warping toys and piles of laundry into bloodthirsty monsters. Terrified to fall back asleep, he tried desperately to keep his mind running, thinking about anything that would keep it awake. When his eyes finally closed, 2 yellow lights twinkled in the darkness, like glowing eyes. Slowly, they turned crimson as they dripped with blood.